you know the words to the song? Does anyone know the words to that song? No, you don't. Put your hands down. You think you do. I thought I did. Kid song, Wizard of Oz, Happy. No. You listen to the words of that song, that is an adult philosophical attitude song. That's about daring to dream. That's about, hey, if bluebirds can fly, why can't they? There's a lot of deep message in that song. And I heard the words of that song penetrate my brain sharper than any scalpel they were using on me at that time. And I just changed my whole attitude and my whole opinion, and I could see the other side of the rainbow and those kids playing soccer. And I thought, okay, tomorrow I'm going to try to eat the food. God, disregard all the above. Just forget that. I want to live, and I may die anyway, and it didn't matter. All of a sudden, it didn't matter if you ever flew again, if they were going to amputate those 2 fingers like they said they were going to. You'd never do anything in life. It didn't matter. What mattered is I was going to go out with a good attitude. And it wasn't about Judy Garland or the song or the movie or the kids. It was about the remembrance of a time when I was those kids and had a fearless attitude about life. And I thought, what is wrong with me? You can't lose that attitude. Attitude's everything in life. We preached that at Top Gun. We told I could teach the food, and they could see that I was ready to eat that food. They put it out there, my body rejected it. Wouldn't go down. They were beside themselves, and they said, oh God, we really want to save this guy. He's trying now. And there was an Army or Navy corpsman that had a sack lunch that his wife had packed. He said, maybe there's something in here he could eat. Anything. Nothing. Except a small container of cherry Kool-Aid. That cherry Kool-Aid went down real smooth. They ran to the commissary, and they got every pack of cherry Kool-Aid they could find. I drank 3.2 gallons of cherry Kool-Aid the first day. I lived on 4 to 5 gallons of Kool-Aid for 5 days. I peed real good. They said, well, that's even a better sign. His body is functioning internally. He could live. Externally, he's a wreck. But internally, he has no injury at all. Well, next thing you know, some saltine crackers were added, some bread. Next thing, I was on a transport back to Fort Sam Houston, where I spent a year in the hospital, which I'm not going to bore you with today. But went through 15 surgeries and all, and one day I realized that the therapy of burn therapy was actually worse than the original injury. It's really hard, and you had to have a motivation. You had to have a reason to do it. And I just pretended in my mind that I would fly again. I thought, well, I'll go back and fly jet fighters, knowing that would probably never happen, or couldn't happen. Well, lo and behold, it's amazing what the power of positive thinking will do, because the more I did my therapy and the more I kept believing that, the more I thought, well, maybe I could pass this. The big issue was on the mangled hand here with the finger they had to break on the operating table so they didn't have to amputate. But they built a hinge joint into that finger. You can't flunk me on a flight physical if I can grasp. Then I can grasp the throttles. But one day, I took a flight physical, much to the shock of the entire United States Air Force, who was willing to push me out of the Air Force, and to every doctor, I passed, with no waivers. None. I mean, my medical records were this high, but the top sheet said, 1A, no waiver. He can grasp. And I got to go back to the Air Force and fly. That's a miracle in itself. I could write a whole book about that whole chapter that we just went through in 5 minutes. And I will tell you, there came a day when I left the hospital to go back to fly jets, much to the shock of everyone. The Air Force wasn't ready, but they didn't even want me. They're going like, we've already discharged you. We don't know what to do with you. We're pretty sure you can't fly high-performance fighter jets anymore because, well, we're not basing that on anything except you look like hell, and we just kind of assume that. And they were right to assume that because nobody had ever returned with that extent of burn injury, or proven they could go out and pull high G loads and do it. Well, I stood on the steps of that hospital one day when they discharged me, and the Air Force said, all right, damn it, we have to take you back. You got an A-7D assignment to Myrtle Beach. You have 48 hours to report to jet requal. You grab your helmet, flight suit, you show up 48 hours, you're on your way. I went from the hospital ward to cockpit 48 hours, and I will tell you I was terrified. I was not very brave or confident about that at all, but I wanted to do it. I had that chance. And as I stood on the steps of that hospital and left that life and went back to the Air Force, I realized two things. I'm going to share with you today, and I don't want you to ever forget them. Number one, life is short and it's uncertain. And because it's both, how can you possibly miss the opportunity of every day? Number two, pursue your passion, live your dream, do it now, don't wait, because of rule number one. Armed with this simple knowledge, I went back to the Air Force and I felt like I had been reborn. I felt like I was starting over. I was a 2-year-old. I'd had a year in the hospital. I'm 2, going back to fly jets. And I have a new mentality, fearless mentality. Now, it makes colonels very nervous having 2-year-olds fly their jets. But I was fearless and I wasn't going to miss a second of any day. The Air Force made me a safety officer. I got to teach a Top Gun. Next thing you know, I said, God, he can do it. He's in the first A-10 squadron. He's pulling 7Gs every day. It's scar tissue. It's fine. We just didn't know what to do with it. Next thing you know, one day I said, and pretend you can see an SR-71. One day I said, I'd like to fly the world's fastest jet, the SR-71. And they said, whoa, no, hey now. And the one thing in life that I learned after my hospital experience, just a little attention getter. Just in case any of you didn't know what an SR-71 was. Thought we'd fly one in for you today. Well, the Air Force said, no, you got to pass an astronaut physical to fly the plane that flies at 90,000 feet. And you know, you got all that scar tissue, and you know, you're all burned up, and we just don't think you can do that. And again, I looked at them like, okay, let me get this straight. I've been pulling 7Gs all day in an A-10 for 5 years and teaching the Top Gun, but you don't think I can sit straight and level in a spacesuit and fly 30 degrees of bank, okay? Their big issue was that you're breathing 100% oxygen all the time, and they thought that was going to happen. And I'm looking at them like, where is your brain? I went into surgery 15 times, and oh, they were giving me 100% oxygen every time I went in there. I think it's going to be okay. And I kind of had to educate the Air Force. I had to deal with the odd guy. I scored the 6th highest score on the astronaut physical they ever had. I was motivated. I was charged up to not miss the moments of your life. Now, when I got to this airplane, I was 12. I was 12 years out of the hospital. I was a 12-year-old, and I was. And I want to share with you today, briefly, the adventures of a 12-year-old flying the world's fastest jet. For those of you that are not familiar, and if there are any of you in here today, please exit immediately. The SR-71 was your guardian of freedom for 25 years, served 6 different presidents, did more to win the Cold War than you could ever possibly imagine. This jet was the weapon they could not shoot down. Over 4,500 missiles fired at this airplane over 25 years. Not one piece of one was ever hit. This aircraft cruised at 2,000 knots. Let me put that in perspective. When you go out hunting with your .30-06, that bullet exits the muzzle at 3,100 feet per second. This aircraft would cruise in a climb at 3,200 feet per second. You're doing a mile every second and a half. Or if you want to go a little faster, you push the throttles. The airplane was made of titanium, which made it very difficult. Each airplane had its own personality. You can't forge titanium. Literally had to invent technology in 1960s to build this airplane. No one ever built an airplane out of titanium. They said it couldn't be done. All the things they said about me going back to flying, they said to Kelly Johnson back then, you can't build an airplane that goes Mach 3 and holds it for an hour and a half and won't burn up. And then titanium, it's not going to work. And it worked beautifully. This airplane was involved in every geopolitical event from the Vietnam War to the Gulf War. Was just an amazing bit of American aviation history. 2 separate cockpits, totally different. So you had to get mated up with a backseater. When you flew all your missions with the same guy, so you could learn to communicate effectively between cockpits. Now, when I was crewed with Major Walter Watson. He's the one on the left. You can tell that Walter is a black man. Walter has the distinction of being the only black officer in Air Force history. be a part of this prestigious program. So we were kind of well-known crew. The Mel Gibson Lethal Weapon movies came out at the same time. Danny Glover and Mel. Everybody said, hey, look, it's the burned-up guy and the black guy. It's like they're like a unique crew there. Well, Walter and I became best friends. We're best friends to this day. We do talks together once or twice a year. Brilliant engineer, and you needed a brilliant engineer in that back seat. When I first got in the front seat, I said, oh my God, no guns, no bombs, no rockets. I was a little nervous. I thought, well, I could flip a camera switch on and fight commies like that. There wasn't one camera switch in the front seat. My job was to keep the pointy end forward. Walter had all the secret stuff in the back, all the cameras, the sensors, the comm jamming. I told Walt, if we're ever shot down, you're the spy, I'm just the driver. Now, getting used to the space helmet did take a little, and it didn't bother my scar tissue, of course, but as a fighter pilot, you can take your mask off in flight, scratch your face, wipe sweat out of your eye, or if you're a Navy pilot, pick your nose, or whatever it is that they do when they're flying. But now, you are entombed for 5 or 6 hours, breathing 100% oxygen. You can't scratch your face. You can't, fix your itch on your ear, and it could be real nerve-wracking. The other thing was, as you know, as you go higher in elevation, the evolved gases in your body expand. I said, watch what you eat before you go. Now, you have a self-contained environmental system, heating and cooling knob here. I was a new guy, and they were kind of playing with me. And they said, Brian, you're doing your first 5-hour mission today. Have the ham and cheese omelet in the in-flight kitchen. In fact, put extra cheese on there because the cheese with the protein will be good for you. And I'm going like, well, yeah, cheese, protein, that makes sense. Pile it on. Wasn't even thinking. Halfway to Cuba from California, I thought I was going to give live birth in the cockpit. As we're passing like 57,000 feet, I go like, Walt goes, wow, are you okay? I'm hearing weird sounds coming in. At 78,000 feet, when relief finally came, I very tearfully realized how self-contained that entire environmental system was. Now, this is kind of a funny slide I'm going to show you. It's a little joke. We'd love to show it. I'm so sorry. You may not be able to notice it, but this Walt and I getting ready to do a mission to Cuba. We'd go from California, Sacramento, down to Cuba, loop the island, come back twice a week. 5 hours, a 5-hour mission. And you did just to piss Fidel off of the double sonic boom because he hated it. The airplane carried a double sonic boom, and he just hated that. And we used to go look at him all the time. Well, here we are getting ready to fly, and let's face it, it's a lot more fun being in the front seat where you have a view and you have your hand on the stick. And so if you look closely at my spacesuit, I know you can't hardly see it, but it has a little happy face on it. And Walter's, it just has kind of a not so happy. So. We only flew out of 3 locations. We had 2 jets in Okinawa, 2 jets in England, and a dozen airplanes in California at Beale. We covered the globe with only 15 crews at any one time in the squadron. Well, this is Kadena getting ready to go up to North Korea. President Reagan was our commander-in-chief at the time, and he knew how to use this airplane. One day the commies were having a big conference up there in North Korea, and they invited all the bad guys, the Chinese, the Russians, the Vietnamese, the Koreans. They didn't invite us. Ronald Reagan said, have Brian and Walter take off out of Okinawa, head on up to North Korea, and do a little figure-8 butterfly pattern up there. And we're going, what the heck are we doing? We photographed the entire country in the first 4 minutes. It was Ronald Reagan's way of every 4.5 minutes, sonic booming their coffee cup off the table. Just to let them know that we know you're there, now you know we're here, and you can't do a thing about it. Did you ever notice how you didn't hear a whole lot out of Korea back in those days? Reagan knew and used the big stick. And they knew we were looking at them. You were not hiding a 960-degree heat source. Everybody knew you were there. The Russians, the Chinese. It wasn't a secret. They just couldn't catch you. You're doing a mile every second half. They just have to lead you by 35 miles with that missile shot. It's a tough shot. Now, a little footnote to history you may not be aware of. Behind the jet here is the Kadena Marina, where the Navy has an officers club, and people are windsurfing and sailing and learning how to windsurf. And rumor has it, and I don't know how true this is, that some SR-71 pilots on takeoff, it sucked the wheels up 10 feet off the deck and full burner just got ripping across that marine and knocking windsurfers over it. I think that's just a rumor personally. Now this picture makes me very sad that you can't really see it. So it's a beautiful picture. It looks like time-lapse photography. It's a gorgeous picture, and I want you to later come by my booth and look through the book and see this picture in the book. It's a haunting picture. It's a November sky in England. The engine, it's doing an engine run. We used to run one engine up at a time, and the jet was leaning over. You're never going to get a picture like this. You're on an active runway. They're getting ready to fly a 6-hour mission up over the Baltic. And you might think, well, God, how'd you ever get a big time-lapse photographer? That picture was taken by a 12-year-old that didn't have a clue what the word aperture on his camera meant. All right, let's review. Live your passion. What's rule number 2? Follow your dream. Do it now. Don't miss the moment. Brian Shul, passion, photography, jets. Okay? He's near the most elegant airplane ever built. You think he's not going to find out a way to get some pictures? No cameras, no photography, top secret. Yeah, okay. But I'm 12 and I can figure out a way. There was ways to get approval. The commander could sign a sheet. All right, today we're going to let him take one picture. So we're sitting in the mobile car, and I love this picture because it says everything I want to teach people. I'm sitting in the mobile car with the colonel and the runway, and we're listening to this incredible engine run, a roar that you've never heard the likes of. And he looks over, he goes, "What's that camera doing on the seat? You know you're not supposed to have a camera out here." And he's kind of pissed. And then the sound of the jet mesmerizes us once again, and I go, "Well, you know, Colonel, if you had a picture of that, you'd be like the only colonel in the Air Force would have that in his office." And he never really looked at me, and I swear his lips never moved. But I distinctly heard, "You have 10 seconds." To this day, I can still feel the cold concrete of that England runway. Leaping out of the car against every rule on an active live launch in the next 10 seconds, I had took 2 pictures, cranked a roll of 36, 2 shots. What the hell does that word aperture mean? Maybe bigger numbers are better. I don't know. Just make sure you get the wingtips in and you're looking through the... And this picture is perfect. And I have a 6-foot image of this in my gallery at home. People come in and they're like, "Wow, is that a painting? Is that..." And I go, "No, a 12-year-old took it." And the message of this picture is not, "Ooh, look at me, I'm a good photographer." No, the message is, don't be afraid of life. Don't live life fearlessly. Don't be afraid, "Well, I'm not very good at it, I don't know how to do it." Most people never live their dream because of fear. And when you're fearless at 12, you go, "God, I'm surrounded by adults. What the hell's wrong with the rest of the world?" And I love this picture, and it speaks volumes to me. You guys check your pitot heat before you take off to make sure the heating element comes on. We check it to make sure we can turn it off, because we'll melt the tube passing through 60,000 feet from the heat. If you never heard one of these jets take off, your life's incomplete. It was a sound you didn't hear as much as feel as the decibels penetrated your body. Climbing out over Susanville in Northern California, the photographs that you are seeing today, are trying to see, represent the world's rarest collection of SR-71 photographs in the world. They're all my own images that were shot over a 7-year period. 99% of the time I got approval, permission, they signed letters. Okay, yeah, it's okay. It wasn't like it was some big illegal operation or anything. But it took a lot of effort and a lot of stick-to-itiveness. And I never knew I was going to be an author, write a book, be on the internet, do this. That was the last thing in the world I would ever think of doing. But I just wasn't going to miss the moment of trying to get photographs. Here we are in a T-38 chase aircraft. If you're going to go this fast to get this picture, if you're going to go this fast, you're going to burn a lot of gas. And you're going to have to air refuel 2 to 5 times. You try this at night, in a turn, in turbulence, in weather, lightning in your face. They don't pay you enough, but you have to get the gas or the mission's not going. On my days off, I'd go up and I'd say, "Can I go up on the tanker?" They go, "Sure, absolutely. You can take all the pictures you want. We'd love to have you." The guys were thrilled. My buddies would go, "Why would you go up on your day off just to see what we do all the time?" I go, "Gee, I don't know. Maybe we're the only people in the world get to be around this, and it's kind of cool, and I'm into photography. How many more reasons do you need?" And then you look at me and go, well, yeah, but it's such a pain. It's such a pain. You got to fill out all the paperwork. The colonel has to prove it. The tanker squadron has to do it. And it's such a pain. You got to orbit for 4 hours out there for that 15 minutes of excitement. And I'd look at them and I'd go, pain? Pain is sitting in a burn ward where they're ripping skin off one part of your body to sew it on another part on a Saturday afternoon, and now you have a new wound on your body. You got to sit under a heat lamp all day while people are out playing baseball. I said, that's a pain. This is living. This is a joy. Now, I didn't say all those words to him. I just look at him like a 12-year-old would. Like, yeah, okay, I'm going. And I'm glad I took these pictures now, because they're the one record we have, the one example of the legacy of this airplane. This is another one of those Rembrandt lighting pictures. Please come by my booth and look at this picture in the book. It's absolutely gorgeous. We even made a big 6x8 card of it. You can see the fuel seeping out of the wing. The jet grew 4 inches in flight. And since it did, they had to build expansion joints into the jet, so it leaked and oozed subsonically until it heated up to 900 degrees, and then you didn't lose the drive. One day I was sitting in the ready room in Okinawa. Colonel goes, Brian, it's your day off. Why don't you go up on the tanker? Looks like a beautiful day. See if you can get some pictures. This was the same colonel who was now sporting a beautiful picture in his office. I said, well, Colonel, thank you. I think I will. Went up on the tanker, out over the South China Sea, early in the morning. They banked 12 degrees. Lighting by God. Cloud deck. I didn't know any of these things. Now, I'm a photographer, I'm a professional. I look back, I understand what was going on. Then, I'm in there back with the boomer. Those of you that have been in the back of a tanker, you got to lay down, you got to look. You can't even get your eye to the viewfinder. It's manual focus, manual, you know. He said, you got 10 seconds. That's a real mission. I go, oh, I always just get 10 seconds. I'm going like, well, I got to zoom in. I don't know. What the hell does that aperture do? I don't know. I'm going to try small numbers this time. And it's a beautiful picture. It almost became the cover shot of the book. And again, my point isn't, ooh, look at me. The point is, when you don't know what you're doing, if it's a passion, don't miss the moment. Because maybe it took those moments to make me the photographer that I am today. And if I'd been afraid, you know, well, I don't know what I'm doing. I need to read more books on this. And, you know, they don't want me carrying a camera. And that's how nothing ever gets done. I love that picture. Passing 50,000 feet in the climb. I'm sorry you can't see these better. It's really a deep, dark cobalt blue. You get above all the weather that you feared when you flew mortal planes. Leveling at about 85,000 feet. I don't even know if you can see anything there. It's a beautiful sight. You look out the window. This is what the North Arctic Circle looks like from about 90,000 feet. I saw 2 sunrises and 2 sunsets on this day. I saw some incredible sights. One day I was looking in the rearview mirrors, and I did carry a small camera in my spacesuit pocket. You might think, well, that had to be illegal. Actually, it wasn't. There was nowhere in the entire Strategic Air Command Handbook that said, while flying the world's fastest jet, it might be a good idea not to have a camera in one hand taking pictures because it could distract you. And because that wasn't in there, as any good 12-year-old, I thought, well, of course it'd be okay for those who want it. Anyway, don't let me make you think that we have time on missions to be doing this. We don't. I have six pictures in flight on training missions. I have a total of 220 photographs in 7 years. To give you perspective how difficult it was. But it was a passion. I was looking in the rearview mirrors and I saw this incredible green visor reflection. It was so cool. And again, please come and look at my book. These pictures are beautiful Kodachrome slide originals. And don't ask me why we had rearview mirrors in the world's fastest jet. I can assure you nobody was gaming. I mean, when you're cruising at 2,000 knots, it's like, wow. Okay, now you don't feel this, you see blue sky. I mean, you're seeing deep, dark, you don't see things pass by. You're watching the number, the DME, it's just making you dizzy. And you're looking at expanses of geography that you would never imagine. Anyway, I saw this reflection and I really wanted to, I've already admitted to you I was a big fat baby in the hospital. I'll admit something else to you. I'd be flying along. And I put that green visor up to see the scar tissue on my face to make sure I was really doing it. I wasn't just dreaming it. Because they used to give me drugs in the hospital where you couldn't distinguish reality from fantasy. And I thought, Are you kidding me? 12 years ago, I was sitting in a burn ward, crying like a baby, and now I got my hand on the stick of the world's greatest airplane? Now, that can't be right. And I'd have to look in the mirror and make sure I wasn't dreaming. I wouldn't tell Walter I was doing that. He'd kind of worried about me. But fact is, I found it quite amazing to even be doing it at all. People always ask me, what were your favorite missions? I write about a lot of them in my books. I could talk for an hour on that. One particular, that's the coast of Southeast Asia. We got to do a mission around Cambodia, Thailand, Southeast Asia, where I got to fly over the very spot where I've been shot down 12 years earlier. Don't think we didn't lay down some serious sonic boom that day. And this is kind of a cool thing. Again, I'm so sorry about this lighting in here today, but it was kind of cool to walk in the officers club with a patch that said M3+. Nobody else could wear an M3+. You know, the old B-58 Hustler guys had M2+, yeah, okay. Concorde. Good stuff. 3+. But we didn't have a gun, and also the fighter guys were like, yeah, it was just, straight level, no gun, So one day we walked in the officers club. I'm a student in training. My instructor's with me, and on the other side of the bar, I see all my ex-students, all the F-15, F-16 guys. They're all the toy jet fighter guys. They're going like, oh, Shul, hey, so what'd you guys do today? Knowing that we can't say, yeah, we dropped some bombs, we shot the gun, What are we going to say? Yeah, we just flew straight home. But my instructor was very cool and calm. Put down his beer, he said, we did Nebraska in 3.5 minutes today. And it just kind of shut everybody up. I thought it was just And folks, that's the best way to do Nebraska, by the way. Okay, London to New York, 1.5 hours. Sacramento to London, 3.5 hours. I was cruising across Canada the night, saw the northern lights, got over Iceland, saw the sun come up at 5 in the morning. Just beautiful sights you would never see. Now, do we have a lot of time to take the sights in when you're flying this airplane? No. That's why these are such valuable pictures to me to this day that I can't even imagine that I was able to even do that. Coming back into land, Northern California, it's a beautiful airplane. We're in a T-38 chase aircraft here. And people, don't kid yourself. Not everybody was saying, Brian, that is so cool. You got these cool pictures. Can I have one? They're saying, what the hell? You got the camera again? Don't you have enough pictures? And I look at them like, have you eaten enough ice cream? You're never going to have enough? Is that the last time you're going to kiss your wife? That's it? We already did that? Jeez, how could you, if this was your passion, and you're near the most elegant aircraft ever built, how could you, I have dreams at night now, nightmares of why didn't I take more pictures? Well, it was hard to do. Sometimes the last 5 minutes of flight were the most harrowing. You're up there in a clear air mass for 5 hours. You come back to your base now, weather's all changed, and guess what? You have enough gas for one approach. That's how they planned your mission. So you were always trying to make gas. One approach. Oh yeah, you're 185 across the fence. Don't mess it up. There were some nights in England where in the fog, you had one shot, 0-0. Don't mess it up. So it became, you learned how to concentrate really well. If you want more than your 15 minutes of fame, you be an SR-71 pilot. You take your jet to a show where there's 100,000 people. You light your burners in their face. You fly, you land your jet at their show. You stand in front of the jet at the show. You are a sky god. And I will tell you, that's exactly how we felt when we did air shows. People would come and look at the jet like they're meeting the Pope. And they'd stare speechless. Then they'd come over and Walt and I would be, hey, yeah, we're just regular guys, we're not astronauts. And they'd just stare like their mouth open, could not speak. What is wrong with you people? Well, people like undefeated first in class. We love that. And this jet was that. And the airshow public, and a lot of you kind of people were all there going like, oh, God, yeah. And so it was really fun for us to do it. Now, here's the question you always heard. When you go into orbit, do you shut the engines down? And I go, sir, we don't go into orbit. It's an air-breathing jet. We're flying above 90% of the atmosphere. That's why it's so amazing. It's not a rocket. But after you heard that question a number of times, you had to play it. One day a guy came up and asked that. I said, sir, if you can promise not to tell, I will share some highly classified information. And this is what they wanted. This is what they wanted. And Walter goes, oh God, here we go. He walked away and I said, sir, when we're on the backside of the moon, we shut one engine down, use the moon's gravitational pull, get us back into low Earth orbit, and went through this whole thing, and his eyes were so big and his mouth's open. I said, but you can't tell anybody about that maneuver. We call the moon maneuver. He ran back to his family, told them everything. You could just see him, telling the story. They're all there fainting in the grass and falling. So we had a lot of fun with him. But I will tell you, message number 2. I have 3 main messages in my talk today. First message was about not missing life, living. If you miss that portion, already forgot already. Attitude. Number 2 message is perspective. Let's not lose our perspective. You know, we complain about stuff every day and we think, we got it pretty hard. You know, we just forget how good we have it. People don't get to fly. People don't get to live in Alaska. People aren't healthy with 2 arms and 2 legs, don't have cancer. They're walking around doing stuff. We forget that. And I will tell you, as a fighter pilot, I've forgotten it before. I was in a squadron, and this picture reminds me of it, and I'll tell you why in a minute. I was in a fighter squadron one time, and we're all bitching and moaning there in Top Gun. We're flying every day, and we're tired, thirsty, hungry, and students are trying to kill us. We're up at 4 in the morning, and pretty soon it gets really tiring physically. It's wearing you out. And you know, you're going to work before the sun comes up, and you're out there pulling 7, 8 Gs in your jet before the people are even at work. It's hard on you, but you love it. One day, a guy comes in the squadron with a newspaper article that says a trash collector in San Francisco makes more money than a captain fighter pilot in the Air Force. And it was true. A sanitation department chief made more money than a captain flying jets in the Air Force. It can't be right. Something's wrong in the world. We won't stand for this. And we had lost perspective. We'd lost our minds. We're like complaining about this. Pretty soon the commander had enough. Down day, Friday, everybody in the briefing room. That was not a good thing when you heard that. We're in the briefing room, and he says, okay. And he called us a word that starts with A and ends with holes. He says, I'm going to just say this once. And you could hear a pin drop because he was not happy. He said, there are 20,000 doctors in New York City alone. 20,000 doctors in one city. He said, there's 4,000 of you in the entire world. Now, anybody wants to go be a trash collector in San Francisco, you just let me know and I'll make it happen. And I don't remember anybody raising their hand. He said, because there's about 80 million guys at that front door that want to take your place right now. Dreamed of doing this. So you just let me know. And you know, we all looked at each other like, who the hell brought that article in? Who was stupid enough to make a point of that? And we felt pretty dang stupid. And the next time in my life where I had another reminder of standing under the wing of the jet at this very air show, there's 100,000 people there in England. Ben Rich, the man who helped build the jet, that's genius behind the jet. Kelly Johnson's right-hand man, the guy that wrote the Skunk Works, standing next to me in a t-shirt, talking like we're buddies for 30 minutes. Giant in the industry. And I'm taller, he's bigger, he's just like a short little guy. And I'm like, wow, I'm talking to Ben. I didn't even know what to ask him. But we're just chatting about it. He's asking me how the jet's flying, how do you like it? Like we're buddies. And at the end, we were walking away and he goes, Brian, I really envy you. And I go, whoa, you envy me? He says, you get to sit up there and feel what Mach 3 is like every day. You get to feel those J-58 crack. He says, you get to be at the tip of the spear of this jet. He says, I built it and I never got to fly it. The day they were going to give me a flight, I was sick. I couldn't do it. He says, I envy you. And I thought, wow, you think I ever flew that jet again without a perspective of that? God, you appreciate what you're doing? The man, I tell him, suit him up. Give him my sortie tomorrow. I want him to have a flight. Perspective. Sometimes we lose it and forget how lucky we are. If you were a Blackbird pilot, you flew the T-38 2 or 3 times a week to stay current in instruments and formation because that helped you with air refueling. Of course, Camera Boy couldn't resist. Prettiest little white jet. Our flying area was from Mount Shasta to Yosemite, a beautiful tract of geography, matched only probably by your state here in Alaska. And of course you wanted to get pictures of it, and the guys were always, oh, you got the camera again. But they put Walter and I on the jet to learn crew coordination. We're chasing whales up and down the coast of California. But it's a great little sports car, and it enabled me to get a lot of the photographs of the jet in flight when it was perfectly okay. This is the real reason we had the T-38, was for safety chase assistance. Here the SR-71 is dumping fuel to lighten its gross weight so it could land immediately after takeoff. The T-38 is going to offer safety chase. We just happened to be airborne that day, and somebody just happened to have their camera. Got a rare shot of the two jets together right over Beale Air Force Base. So you never know what's going to happen. This is one photo I'm going to show you today, where I'm going to say that is a good photograph. Somebody finally figured out what the hell aperture meant. I'm in focus, the jet's in focus, Mammoth Lakes is in focus. And again, I wish you could see this picture in all its full glory of color. This picture is so perfect. It was taken my last week in the Air Force. And I was a little selfie. Before we had the term selfie, I put a cable release on my camera so I could have my hand down and go plan this all. I'd have my buddy fly dangerously high and forward. And we got a killer shot. Some company in New York City picked it up and said, wow, we want to do a puzzle of this. This is great. What a terrific shot. It's so clear and crisp. And doors started being opened to the one guy in the squadron who didn't want to fly for American Airlines. Just wanted to pursue his photojournalism. And people say, you're a fool. Everybody said, what are you, nuts? They all went to American Airlines, every one of them. Why would you stay in Marysville and try to be like an author, photo, aviation guy? What the hell? You're not going to make any money. And again, they didn't understand who they were talking to. I was a teenager by then in my second life. The money wasn't the issue. It was doing things that motivated you. Well, that same year that I got out of the Air Force in 1990, they retired the jet. They said, satellites, drones, we got to put the money somewhere else. Cold War's over. So they started flying jets off the base to museums. 30 museums have them today. 30 museums. There came a very sad day when the very last jet left Beale. It took about 10 months. The last jet left. We realized this was the end of an era for good. I would have taken more pictures that day, but tears welled up in my eyes as I tried to put the camera in my face and realized, wow, this is the end of a legend, and there's hardly anybody that's realizing what's happening here today at Beale. Every Soviet-make fighter pilot knew this profile right here. Victor Belenko, when he defected to this country with his MiG-25, he said, we built an entire line of MiGs for one purpose, to shoot that damn Blackbird down. He said, we could not understand how your decadent capitalist Mickey Mouse society could build a jet in the 60s that we could not shoot down in the 90s. And at that briefing, the general got right in his face like a baseball umpire, very calmly said, Victor, that's what you can do in a country where men are free. Yeah, Victor Belenko got it, became an American citizen, lived in the United States, and now that you live in the U.S., what would you like to see? He goes, only two things. Disneyland
SR-71.
and an SR-71 up close. Rumor is he enjoyed the latter much more. Leaving Air Force history through the gates of legend, the airplane sits quietly, if not proudly. 30 museums. If you have not seen one, museum do, most of you have, I'm sure, is a piece of American aviation history that is unsurpassed. As you're sitting here today, the jet that held every speed and altitude record in 1962, 1962, still holds in 2018 every speed and altitude record. And that is saying something for the boys at Lockheed there. I got out of the Air Force, I had all these photographs. I was a teenager now in my second life, and I wanted to do a book to honor the jet. And what do you think everybody said? Oh, you can't do a book? What are you, nuts? You're not a publisher, you don't know what you're doing. And isn't the world just always full of no people? You can't fly again, your fingers all screwed up here. You can't pull G's, you can't do. If you listen to all the no people, why don't you just all lay down and die on the ramp right now? Just cancel flying for the rest of the day. These are the same people that I swear, if they've been with Lewis and Clark, say, oh, I don't know, it's raining, let's turn back. I mean, geez, are you kidding? We had pioneers in covered wagons. We had people in Alaska back in the days when it was so tough to live, and they're going like, Oh gosh, you just do it. Well, I had all these photographs and people said, oh, well that looks like a fake picture and all. This particular shot, which became quite famous on the internet, I had to tell people we didn't have Photoshop back then. These are original Kodachrome slides. And they became kind of iconic because we put that on the cover of the book. It took 2 years to sit down with a couple guys. We said we could do a book. We thought maybe 2,000 people would buy the book way back then in the 90s we did. And now we're up to like version number 5 or 6 of the book. We're the single most popular book worldwide. We're in 48 countries. I had no idea the popularity of the jet worldwide. And when the internet got big, my book got big. You can't buy them in bookstores. We only print a very limited number every year. I brought a bunch, not that many, at my table. I really hope y'all come by when we're done here. I'm going to give you a little question-answer period. Come by my table and take a look at the pictures in their full color the way I really wanted you to see them. I'm very proud of that book. These books are $400 to $450 books. Go on the internet tonight, you'll see them for $500. We're selling them for $235 at the show. $235. Okay, so that comes with my $5,000 signature. Now, I'll warn you, if you purchase my book, there are still some photographs that are highly classified. But first, I want to tell you about, we also have the 50th anniversary gold coin. I'm the only, Lockheed didn't even do a 50th anniversary coin for the jet when it celebrated its 50th year. We did. My company's the only one that did. We did 3,000 coins. They're actually got $60 worth of gold in them. We sell them for $50 gold pieces. That's the front and back. As a little footnote to your trivia, we have indigo blue on the background, and the reason is that's the color the jet was painted. Indigo blue. You thought it was a black airplane all these years. Technically, the federal serial number on the paint is indigo blue. We're the only ones to capture that accurately. We minted 3,000 for Mach 3. We have about 200 left. I have the last of them with me. I took them all to this show. I figured gold, Alaska, yeah, they'll all want one. If you buy the book, there are still some classified photos. I don't want you to spread around word out of this tent of things that you might have seen or heard in this briefing. Yeah. Okay. I'm always going to be the sled driver guy. It doesn't matter what else I do in life. That's going to be, and that's okay. I've done other things. I went out and I flew with the Thunderbirds for a whole winter training season. They said, nobody said, you can't do that. We don't let people fly with us winter. Hey, I was a 17-year-old at the time, and I called them enough times to let me do it. I'm the only guy they've ever let fly with them during the whole winter training. Did a book on them, went out and flew with the Blue Angels for an entire air show season. We broke every rule in the Department of Defense handbook of flying civilians. I flew the entire 1994 season with the Thunderbird Blues in the back seat. Almost killed ourselves a couple times. You might think we look a little close there, and you're right, that's not a wide-angle lens, that's a 55mm normal lens. We're counting rivets. We were almost killed right there. And we're taxiing in. I told my pilot, Dino, I said, hey Dino, I used to teach this stuff for a living, and I was really good, but you scared me bad twice, didn't you? He goes, it's okay, partner, I scared myself 3 times. Did my last flying with the Portland Air National Guard over Mount Hood in F-15s. We call this Eagles in the Hood. I did a calendar project for them. I'd done all the flying I wanted to do. I'd done all the photography, and I hung up my spurs, and I don't fly anymore. And I concentrate on my nature photography, and I started going around the country and doing a lot of outdoor stuff. And as a pilot, I found that I was extremely enamored with nature's flyers, the birds. A simple duck that you just ignore flying by. When you actually study them out there, you spend a lot of time, you realize the paint, the schemes, and the color tones of nature's flyers are phenomenal. And who can take their eyes off the bald eagle, that you have many of up here. I'm coming back to do some pictures of them, all right? So I'm working on a book from pilot's eye view. I never saw an F-16 do this maneuver. When you pluck a minnow from that pond, all the aerodynamic forces and that egret's amazement, it's every feather of flight control surface. And I begin to realize we don't fly. We build machines that fly. We sit in them. We think we're flying. But the birds really fly. So I'm working on that. People go, well, okay, that had to be like the greatest moment of your life right there. That is, you didn't get any better in that moment. Oh yeah. And I will tell you today, that's number 2. That is number 2. Number 1, didn't get any better in that moment. The day I stood on the top of those concrete steps at Fort Sam Houston and had to walk that long set of concrete steps all the way down to a blue staff car waiting to take me back to the Air Force. And I stood there terrified, underweight, still had some steel pins in my fingers, thinking, I don't even know if I can do this. I have no guarantee I will even do it well. But I was being given a second opportunity, a second chance to go back. Here's a number for you that'll make you cringe. 21,000 young men went to Vietnam and never saw the age of 21. 21,000 never saw 21. Never got to live their dream, pursue their passion, have their life. I got to 25. I got to start over and get a do-over, get to go back. Now, there was no guarantee any of it was going to work. Certainly no guarantee you were going to do that. But all you can ask for in life is the opportunity. It doesn't get any better than that. Because what you do with that opportunity is, in the end, the real saga of your life. So that, for me, now, this was a close number 2. We're fighting communism, kicking their butt. We sonic boomed Gaddafi's ass during the Libyan crisis. We boomed Fidel weekly. We were making a difference. We brought the Berlin Wall down. Yeah, we felt good about what we were doing. So don't get me wrong, I'm very proud to be associated with that forever. And before I open the floor to questions and end my presentation day, which I did keep a pretty good time, I have to tell you the story, the LA Speed story. And I have to tell it to you because most of you already know it, and already tell it to me all the time. And I'm kind of tired of everyone sending it to me. As I get these emails weekly, I'm sure none of you have done this, send me this, I got this great story, you've got to hear this. And I go, hey, I'm the guy. I wrote it, it's in my book. No, you didn't hear this one, this is really funny. I said, okay, moron. I wrote it, it's in my book. So, for those of you that haven't heard it here today, I'm going to tell you the actual story. So when you hear it, and you will see this on the internet, and you will be tempted to hit my email to send it to me, don't. Because I know the story. But what you don't know about this story, what makes the story so cool, is I would have never told this story. It never dawned on me to be a part of my memoirs. When I wrote my books, I wanted to be little personal memoirs that people would be enamored with, that said, what was it like to fly the jet? And I never thought of this story. I didn't. But I was doing a talk in Seattle one year, many years ago, and a 12-year-old boy in shorts and space camp t-shirt stood up. And this is so classic, a 12-year-old boy, and this is the question you would expect out of a 12-year-old. Wasn't it ever fun to fly the jet? Fun. Because we had talked about how serious and challenging and dangerous and scary and important it was. We forgot to mention the one word a 12-year-old's thinking about. Fun. And I thought, I understand what you're saying because I was 12 twice. And I said, you know what, young man? And I thought of this story that I'd never really shared. So thanks to another 12-year-old, that story got legs, and then with the internet it became now global. So I will tell it to you today. People, was it ever fun? Just for a moment it was. And I don't even feel like I want to tell the story, because every one of you have already told me the story today at my booth, but I'll tell it for the 3 people in the audience that may not know what I'm talking about. One day, Walter and I were doing a little training mission around the United States. We take off out of Sacramento, hit a tanker in Idaho, rip on up to Montana, zip across Denver, hang a right Santa Fe, out over Los Angeles, up to Seattle, back into Sacramento, 2 hours, 21 minutes. Then you do it backwards, gain some time, just building hours, crew coordination, hitting a tanker over, Idaho. We've made the turn to New Mexico, and we are just zipping across the Southwest. I'm over Tucson. I can see downtown LA from Tucson. This is the clearest, beautiful October afternoon, about 6 o'clock. I can see the whole western U.S. bathed in a warm glow the fall afternoon. I can see the whole chain of the Rocky Mountains from Canada to New Mexico. It's smooth as glass. We're at Mach 3.1. I can't even see a gauge moving anywhere in the cockpit. And I'm thinking, we bad. And I thought, poor Walter, he's got to monitor 5 radios. Now, those of you that understand anything about fighter pilots know that when you fly single seat all your life and now you're in the family model, it's a different thing. You don't want to give up control of those radios because it's important that you sound very cool on the radio at all times. You can either be like God or John Wayne. Those are your 2 choices on the radio. Sometimes navigators don't get that. Well, Walter now is in charge of 5 radios back there. I flip up the switch just to hear, now LA Center. And God love you, I don't have to explain what center is to this audience. A lot of audiences I do. LA Center is controlling all the boat smashers and mortal planes below us. Back then we had no GPS. You may remember every Cessna and his brother had to know his ground speed so that he could figure out where he was. You'd hear stuff like, LA Center, Cessna November Alpha Tango, if you got a ground speed readout for us. And this is where the story gets really cool. Centers talk really cool to you. Now those of you that fly go, yeah, we all know. But see, people that don't fly don't know that. The center makes you feel like a sky god every time you go on. It's the same guy. Albuquerque Center, LA Center, Chicago Center, it's the same guy. Cessna November Alpha, we show you 90 knots, 90 knots on the ground. That's how they talk. You pilots, am I making this up? Right after that, a twin bonanza popped up on frequency, just to pimp the guy, I guess. LA Center got a ground speed readout for, twin whatever. And Center would like to say, geez, it's Friday afternoon, who the hell cares? Get off break, but he's going to talk to him like he's John Glenn. Twin Beecher, we show you 120, 120 knots on the ground. And right after that, a Navy F-18 out of Lemoore popped up on frequency. And you knew it was a Navy guy because he talked very slick on the radio. Center Dusty 5-2 speed check. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. Dusty 5-2 is a ground speed indicator in $1 million F-18 cockpit. I'm pretty sure it's right there in the heads-up display. Looking at him in his fat Navy face. And I'm thinking, why are we calling Center to broadcast our speed? Oh, I get it. We are the meanest, baddest, fastest military jet in the valley today. We are taking our little Hornet jet over Mount Whitney and ripping across Death Valley. And we want everyone from Fresno to the coast to know what real speed is. And you can almost hear a little glee in the controller's voice, like, yeah, we put an end to this, okay. Dusty 5-2, we show you 620, 620 knots across the ground. And it was that across the ground that was different, that little exclamation point, like, okay, enough. There wasn't an airliner from San Diego to Seattle that wanted to be next to frequency. It's an etiquette thing. You don't want to be those guys. And a 12-year-old was reaching for the mic button. And I thought, oh no, Walter's in charge of the radios. Oh my God, all the training. No, it's the Navy. They must die. They must die now. I thought, no, but if I do that, all that training, Walter will be upset. I want us to be a good crew. While I was going through this, I heard a click of the mic button in the back seat. Folks, Walter and I became a crew at that moment. His very best innocent Danny Glover voice. LA Center, Aspen 30. You got a ground speed readout for us? See, and they got to give you that same voice. It wasn't any gee whiz, it was just so professional. Aspen 30, we show you 1,987 knots. When I knew I was going to like Walter a lot, it's when he came back and said, Senator, we're showing a little closer to 2,000. And I just want you to know that we did not hear another transmission on that frequency all the way to the coast. So for just a moment, the Navy had been flamed. The king of speed lived, and a crew had been formed. And it was purely fun for those moments. And I never had another moment like that in the plane. And if that 12-year-old young boy had not asked that question, I probably would have never told that story except to a few people over here. And now, sadly, it has become the anvil around my neck that I really, it's not sad at all. I've told the story 8,000 million times, and every time I tell it, I enjoy it more, because I don't ever lose that perspective. I was the lucky one that got to fly the airplane and do it when everything in the universe said I would be the least likely person ever to fly this jet. So what do combat hardened fighter pilot, combat fighting fighter pilots do when they retire? I shoot pansies now. Very proud of that. Opening a gallery in California in a couple of years on my nature photography and jet, but now there's an eclectic mix, jets and wildflowers, okay? So we had to come up with a logo. So first we had a motto, from butterflies to blackbirds, okay? Are you with butterflies and blackbirds, okay? If you're with me there, you'll get the logo there, okay? Oh, that's tremendous. That took 2 years to figure out. And we love it. We have a gigantic sign on our building out there of it. So I'm gonna show you a little cute little video, because you invited me all the way up here, and it's a special. And you all filled the tent, and you put up with this horrible lighting. I'm gonna show you, give you a little treat here on the little video here we're gonna play. Before I do, I just want to tell you this. A lot of you are saying, we get your philosophy, man. We agree with you. We've had our own traumas in life, and we understand what you're saying. And a lot of you do. It's not a complex philosophy. Number 3 point that I wanted to make today was letting go. Letting go. How many people in this audience know what a PIO is? Some of you that are pilots, you do. A lot of people know what the heck's a PIO. Pilot-induced oscillation. Not a natural occurrence, not a normal, it's a pilot-induced oscillation. What that means is you're cruising along in your jet one day and you just get a little excited and you make too quick a movement on the stick, and the jet does this, and then it scares the pee out of you, and you go, whoa! You go like this to correct, and now you're like this, and then you go like this. So you get into a little battle with being a half a step behind what the hydraulic system can do. And the next thing that's going to happen if you continue in a PIO is you're going to break the airplane in half and die. How do you get out of a PIO? Now this audience knows the answer. Most audiences know.
Let go.
For those of you that don't fly, the way you get out of a PIO is to do the most unbelievable, non-intuitive thing, is to let go of the stick. Or at least release your pressure on it. Because the jet will dampen itself out because it's built with inherent stability. But if you continue to grip the stick harder and harder, thinking this is my one control, this is how I control everything, and I'm going to squeeze orange juice out of that stick to save myself. Pilot-induced. And it's a metaphor for life that I have found that when we let go sometimes, things tend to work out. That we worry and we fear and we want to control everything. And guess what? We're not in control of the universe. We're not. And that is such a great lesson that I had to learn to make the adjustment to come back out of the hospital, back into a fighter squadron. I had to let go of a whole lot of preconceived notions and thoughts I had about a whole lot of things. And sometimes letting go is the answer. So I want you to remember this. The next time you're faced with a hurdle that you can't see any way around, over, through, but you know you need to get to the other side, I want you to remember this one thing. That one day, an SR-71 took the runway at Kadena Air Base, slung that non-black nose out of taxiway Alpha, sat on the runway for 30 seconds waiting for its exact takeoff time. The pilot of the aircraft that day could look out that little window on a 153-degree heading for 2.4 miles. He could see the roof of the hospital he had laid in 12 years ago. Legend has it that on takeoff that day, the SR-71 did not climb straight ahead out over the South China Sea to hit the tanker. Oh no. The end of the runway in full burner made a hard 90 left turn, 250 feet. Some say much lower. Zoomed over a certain soccer field, sending kids screaming and falling down, running for their life. rattled every window of a certain hospital without breaking one. As that big black jet made an arc back to course, now the whole base was awake. It was as if all things had come full circle for that pilot that day, and he could for the first time have a better understanding of events that had transpired in his life than he could possibly fathom at the time. He knew at that moment that imagination, as Einstein said, truly is more valuable than knowledge. So for those of you that said you knew the words, just sorry about the video, but maybe the audio will make up for it. its final flight, the SR-71 flew from Palmdale, California to the Smithsonian Dulles Field, traversing the United States in 68 minutes, setting 8 official speed records averaging 2,100 miles an hour before they put the jet to bed. It's not only the most remarkable aircraft of the 20th century, it's a vital piece of American foreign policy that only 93 men ever got to fly. I always said I appreciated it more than the other 92. To keep my promise, I'll, for a few minutes, open the floor to questions, which is always a dangerous thing, before I head back to my my book table, where I know you're all going to want to buy a coin and a book. Sometimes we get good questions. I'll give you a couple of minutes. So. Yes, sir. Was there much rivalry between us and the U2 guys? What's a U2 guy? You mean the subsonic people that were on the other end of the building? I mean, yeah, no, not at all. We shared a building. They were great guys. We admired anybody who could land an airplane like that. It's like not the easiest airplane to land, or sit up there for 8 hours at a time. I never had to sit up there that long. That's not really, because it was so different. We had. They used to say, "Oh, you guys think you're so cool. It's not all that hard to fly the jet. It's just, And we'd go, "Yeah, you don't really know." And then one day, one of the U2 guys got an assignment to go from the U2, come upstairs and fly the SR-71. He went through the whole training, did very well. He went back to his friends. He said, "Shut up, shut up." It's different. It's real different. Yes.
Do you know what museum your plane is?
My plane that I flew, the Libya raid, we flew 3 missions in 3 days. We're the only crew in history. I actually have a footnote to fame here. Walter and I flew 3 missions in 3 days from England to Libya and back in '86. That jet sits at Castle down in Merced, California, 960. In fact, my second book of the 2 books I have here today, called The Untouchables Chronicles, those 3 days, and really highlights that jet, made it kind of immortal. That jet flew 3 times in 3 days and had a lot of things wrong with it, but it did those missions really beautiful. It has the most combat sorties of any. Now, we didn't get our name on a jet, right? We didn't have like one jet, but that's the one jet we've got the closest to. Uh-oh, there's a man that read the Flying Magazine article there. So it's the slowest. See, now there's a question you never get. Another one of those questions, like the 12-year-old asked me, where somebody asked me that question one day, "What's the slowest?" I said, "Gee, no one's ever asked that. I had to really think about that." All right, I'll tell you this one last story, and then I'm going to go to my book. That's a good question to end on. What's the slowest I ever flew? Well, one day, Walt and I were doing a mission around East Germany and around Europe and up over Denmark and around it's amazing scenery. And we're coming back to England, and we get a flash call saying, "Hey, we need a flyby at one of the RAF bases. There's a bunch of air cadets, and the air cadet leader is a former SR-71 navigator, and he told his 12 cadets there that if you could do a flyby, they could see an SR-71. What a treat." They're going, "Well, you don't have to ask me twice to it here." "Okay, point me in the right direction, Walter." So they gave us the coordinates of this little. Now, if any of you have ever seen British RAF airfields from World War II, the tower is well about as high as this thing right here. They're old B-17 type Spitfire bases, and they're all green, 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 green. You can't, there's no distinguishing things to find the airfield. So Walt punches us in, and we slowed down, and we're, keep in mind at 290 knots with the gear up, the jet pretty much falls out of the sky. And we're looking for it. And I'm looking out the window going, "Okay, where is it?" Walt says, "We're there. We're over the field." And it was sort of a foggy day, but not totally. And I go, "Walt, all I see is trees. I don't see anything." So we're doing this. And after a while, my brain goes, "Bing, you haven't looked in the cockpit for a while now, and you're kind of flying like you're in an A-10 here, and you're not." So I look back in, and I realize we're not flying. We're falling down the sky. We're not flying anymore. We're under like 200 knots, and we're going like, and so the jet's like this. So of course It's just like, I'm already in my mind seeing the court-martial. We bailed out, we lost the jet for no good reason. And I'm in full burner, and those things just wound up. And so now, as the jet is in a knife edge, falling out of the sky, the burners take hold. And at that moment, we popped out of the overcast, 10 feet in front of the cadets in the tower. A jet that they didn't even hear coming is burners in their face, and does this knife-edge Thunderbird pass while the pilot is like terrified, can't even speak. The guy's hat blew off, the kids are crying and screaming, doing like they get their eyebrows singed, you know, and they're on the catwalk of the tower. Okay, now, we can't even talk, we're so terrified. We're flying back to Mildenhall, our base, which is 16 minutes away. And we don't even talk, we're so... Now we land, and the commander greets us at the plane. We're thinking, take my wings now, here they are, okay. And he goes, wow, Shakin', what'd you guys do? He just called, he said it's the greatest air show they have ever had. It's the most impressive flyby. He couldn't even describe it. He said you were like in some sort of knife-edge afterburner. What the hell did you guys do? They're still talking about it. No, nothing much. And we literally couldn't talk. And Walter and I normally talk. We got in, we took our spacesuits off. We sat in the dressing room in there. And then Walt he just come over and stared at me. And he said, 162 knots. What did you see, pilot? Thanks for standing up and saying what we've all done and reminding us to cross-check in the cockpit. But that's the slowest I heard.
157.
All Walter said was, don't ever do that to me again.
157.
But a year later, no, not what you're thinking. A year later, we're in the officers' club in Milton Hall in the lunch line. They have beautiful buffet lunch and all. And there's some RAF guy there. So, you guys are with the SR? Because they see our patch. Yeah. He says, wow, were you guys here last year? There was this incredible flyby where this guy did like a burner pass. It was like inverted or something right over the tower. And you go like, no, never heard of it. So, thanks for asking that question. Embarrassing me further. It's a miracle I got through 20 years of flying jets. I love this picture. I'm going to come up to Alaska next year and do some eagle photography. And I did this in Iowa on the Mississippi. It's just as a pilot, you really, when you watch real flyers, you really realize why man wanted to fly in the first place. It's the coolest thing. I'll leave you with this one last quote. I was flying A7s one day over New Mexico on a low level with another guy. Never forget, Doc Savage. His name was Savage, so he's called Doc. And we're doing this after the Earth thing. We're at like 300 feet of the most beautiful fall leaves in New Mexico, going through the wilderness areas on a low-level route for A7s. Saturday morning, it's like 7 a.m. Nobody's out there, smooth as glass, and we just feel like birds. I mean, we have the world at your feet. This is all you ever wanted as a pilot. And it's so beautiful, it's numbing. And you're in your little jet, it doesn't get any better. And I don't know what to say. So Doc, I'll never forget, when I write my memoir someday, I'm going to have his quote in it. He just keyed the mic as, I wonder what the peasants are doing today. It's so appropriate. It's like, God, you know, we're the lucky few that get to do this. And I never forgot that. And now I feel like I'm privileged when nature gives me a gift like that. When I sit out there doing that. So it's the same thing. Life is short, don't miss it. And I will see you at table 24 by the food court. And I want you to see the pictures like they really look. So thank you very much. Thank you. You guys are a good audience.